fantastical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network here for our patron feedback show, week number 2, covering the Brendan Gleeson and Willow episode of Saturday Night Live. This is the show where we get to talk to our patrons every single week and have them answer your questions about the previous week and look forward to the next. My name is John from the Saturday Night Network, and I'm so excited to be with you at the end of the week. We had a crazy week of podcasts starting on Saturday with the Hot Take Show. Lots of Try Guys talk really blew up. We'll get into that, I guess, a little bit more for the last time before we look ahead to next week. Monday Roundtable was really fun as well. An excellent panel where we dove deep into some of the great accomplishments this week of people like Andrew and Sarah. Talked about Brendan a lot. It was really, really fun. And then last night, in case you missed it, Mike and Nicole got together for the first time, just the two of them, to talk through all the numbers of the week. So if you love the numbers and statistics, go check out that show from last night. But last but not least, we are here to recap the week and answer your questions with two amazing patrons. So let me bring them in. First up, it is Carlos Rodela. Carlos, how are you?
Hello, I'm excited to be here. I'm ready to talk about Saturday Night Live, one of my favorite things in the world.
Yes, Carlos, I'm always excited to get to talk to you. You always have great opinions and stuff. So I'm looking forward to, hearing what's up with you.
Oh yeah, I'll talk for a while, so I'm gonna pace myself.
I know, exactly. And we're late on the East Coast, so I appreciate anybody who's up with us. Let us know what you're up to in the chat. Always great to hear from all of our friends in the chat throughout this patron show as well, and involve them in the discussion. Joining us as well, I believe for the second time on a patron show, joined us during the summer for our character countdown. It is the great Will Norman. Will, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here. Second time's a charm, hopefully. But I'm really excited to talk SNL as well. Carlos took the words out of my mouth, but stuff to talk about this most recent episode, and looking forward to next week as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, I always like to check in at the end of the week and sort of give my thoughts of where I'm at and, things that I think this week will be remembered for the most. I think for me, like, people are going to look back and just be so, interested in Brendan Gleeson as such an unknown name for the most part coming into the episode and really establishing himself in the SNL streets. And that's what this podcast is, right? The patron feedback show is like, these are the diehards that listen to this one. So I know that everyone's, at least excited about Brendan Gleeson, whether you like the episode or not. And then obviously, I think the Try Guys stuff was the thing that we're going to take away from this week a lot. So Carlos, let me head over to you. Overall thoughts before we get into some questions tonight. What things are you going to take away from this week, and how are you feeling about that episode that you saw?
Yeah, we talk off the podcast, and I think as soon as I finished it, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. And this show has taught me to rewatch things, because in the moment, sometimes you're like, that was really bad. And then you rewatch and you're like, maybe I love it. So yeah, on my first watching, I was a little disappointed. I just felt like it was pretty scattershot, and I was confused. And Brendan, I think, might have been a second, maybe a replacement host. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I can answer that. So I don't know if he was like a last second replacement, but I know that he was definitely the last host to be booked of these three. So they were obviously looking in a different direction and ended up with
right.
him.
Okay, yeah, but again, he did great. Like, I wasn't ready for him. All of a sudden, he showed up as one of the hosts, and I was like, "What is going on here?" I know him from a couple things, but yeah, I think he did great. He brought every energy to each scene. I just wasn't in love with a lot of the sketches. I was, of course, in love with Eyes, because I love Sarah, and Eyes was just incredible. And the Try Guys thing, I'm not as excited about like everybody else is, because I think if you do, internet culture, internet celebs, it can get cringe real fast. And it was fun because they almost broke, and there was some fun to it there. But yeah, I wasn't as excited as everybody else is. But overall, second time I watched a bunch of them, a lot of them stood out to me more. Like PDD was funnier the second time. The new cast advice was funnier the second time for some reason. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good episode. But like, after I watched it the second time, I liked it more.
And I also had a sketch this week that I really didn't care for that much on the first time, but enjoyed much more on the second time. So if you listen to my thoughts on the Hot Take Show, they're going to be different than I think tonight. But that's why I think, Carlos, when we talked off the podcast and you were like, this episode wasn't really for me, I was like, give it another chance. Because you never know, right? Like, when you rewatch stuff, you really start to, think about things differently.
Yeah, which, by the way, speaks volumes to like the audience in the room at SNL. Like, right? Like, if they don't find it funny in that moment, then there's the laugh track. And then that
Right.
kind of, changes how people watch that and replay. And they're like, was that a good sketch? But yeah, I did love how they came around for Sarah's sketch at the end. And you could tell the audience was like finally on board with her because that final line was just beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me get your overall thoughts, from the week and things you're thinking about, and how did you feel about this episode?
Yeah, so I mean, I think from the initial thoughts during the episode, I did find myself as the show was going on a little bit disappointed, and it really, I think a lot of it was just the energy and the timing of the host of with Brendan Gleeson. It just seemed a little bit off to me at first as I was getting adjusted to just kind of his style and what he brought to the show. And I think I was probably grading on a harsher curve because I think coming off the Miles Teller episode, the energy was so high. The host was centered, not just in the sketches, but centered in every single sketch that was there, and really kind of the driving force for the comedy. And I found him to be kind of a supporting role, which is that's the role for different hosts. They're going to fit in where they getting where they fit in with each sketch. But I think I was just so hyped up from the premiere. But I thought overall, though, as he found his footing, I thought that I enjoyed a lot of the sketches. I think it goes back to even season 47. In the start, I felt like since then, like we're not talking about a new era this year, but this era of coming away from the show and feeling like most of the sketches are solid. There haven't been like all out clunkers where a single host could, take away the entire, performance of the cast or make it feel like this is an overall dud. I felt like there's always majority sketches are better than, the rest. And I felt like there were some really good moments throughout the episode. I felt like the writers found a good way to have him play the right part as we went through the episode as well. And then we'll get to the nitty gritty of each sketch, obviously, as we go through. But I felt like overall, it was still a solid episode. I thought that for given the demographic that he fit coming into the sketch or into the show, they did a really good job working around him. And I came away enjoying the episode overall, and did enjoy a lot of sketches on the rewatch as well versus some of the first time doing it. So that was a solid episode. I think we're just in a really good place right now and kind of spoiled with the way the writers are able to do and produce right now. That it's not host reliant, but it can be lifted to another level depending on the host as well.
I think I was really fascinated by this episode overall, and I appreciate your thoughts, Will, and your thoughts as well, Carlos. When I walked away on Saturday and then again on Monday after the roundtable, I had been with 5 other co-hosts or co-panelists on the shows. It seemed like everybody had overwhelmingly great thoughts about the episode, which is a good thing, right? But, I've been doing the show for now into my 3rd season, and it's a rare occurrence where everybody seemed to like the show. So I was like, maybe we do have like I think Andrew Dick called it a modern classic even. And I was like, maybe we do have that on our hands. But then it slowly started to trickle in a little bit, like not to dox any of our podcasters that I get to talk to on a regular basis, but I started to get some, texts being like, actually, I think, some elements of this episode were really cringy and the monologue didn't really work for me. And then like, I did get to talk to you for a few minutes, Carlos, and you were like, not that into it. And I realized I was like, there it is. Okay. Everything is right in the world. Like not everybody
Nice.
likes an episode of Saturday Night Live. Like you're never going to find an episode that I think works for everybody, because the beautiful thing about SNL is that like, everyone wants different things from the show. So like, I think as long as you like, for the most part, like, get a good overall feel, which I think is what Brendan brought to the show, I think you're going to walk away from this week having fond memories of it. You agree, Carlos?
I do, but I was going to say, I also agree with Will when you said about Miles, because that Miles episode was great. Like you just said, like maybe there isn't an objectively awesome show, but that show was great. Like just hands down. Also expectations, right? Always come into it. I was like, Miles who? Right? And then Miles was like, no, I'm Miles. You know me now. Yeah. Because he killed it. And so I came from that episode, and it's just so tricky how you watch shows in the season, because what's the one that you just watched before this one? Right? And that was the Miles one. It just knocked me out of the water. So
yeah, it's hard not to watch every week and then start to compare it to the previous. And that's, especially when we're looking for things to talk about on the podcast, I think that's natural. Yeah. Will, any other major headlines you want to bring up or respond to that?
I think we'll probably get to some like within some of the sketches, but I think what's been really cool is lately with a lot of the first time hosts that have been coming through. I mean, the question I think we all ask ourselves whenever the person's finished and we're at the good nights, it's like, would I want this person to come back? Like if they announce this person's coming back to host, would I be excited about that? Would that be appointment television, or do I feel this person's going to be a 5-timer or whatever the case may be? And that's kind of the question I always ask myself whenever we see the first time hosts. And I don't think I don't necessarily think, and based on kind of what you said too, John, like I don't know if he will be back in the capacity anytime soon. But like I said, it wasn't a clunker by all means. I thought it was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to talk about the sketches. But I think, the first time hosts has been kind of fun to see what the energy they all bring to each episode.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get into some of the questions that we have here on the show? And then through the questions, we'll talk about some of the other sketches and then start to look forward to Megan the Stallion coming up this week. I don't know if I'm saying that properly. Megan the Stallion. Am I supposed to say the every single time?
I think it's the.
Yeah.
Okay. I know it's spelled that way, but I didn't know if like I'm supposed to, as a Canadian, like supposed to pronounce it that way. So Megan the Stallion coming up this week. So looking forward to all of the discussion about that show. We have some really fun guests planned for all the shows coming up next week. And if you're wondering how do you get your questions into the show, well, we put up a question form on Twitter every single Wednesday, the day before the patron feedback show. We also put it up in our Instagram story, so you can always send in your questions there. We look through the questions. As long as they're somewhat reasonable, we'll answer them on the show. Okay. Let's start from the top from our friend Jeremy Boulard, who wants to know, what did you guys think of the blonde sketch after watching it again? So this is the Marilyn Monroe one. I really liked it and thought Heidi and Brendan were hilarious. So I really wanted to answer this question because this is a sketch we didn't talk about on the roundtable at all. And I've only addressed this on the Hot Take Show. So why don't I start with our panelists and then I'll give my thoughts on it. So Carlos, what did you think of this sketch?
Yeah, I don't like this one at all. Like, I was confused by it. I don't understand why it existed. I know they were doing the tie-in with Netflix and the movie. But then I found, again, second watch, I found some fun in with it because Heidi breaking is funny. Like in general, if Heidi tries not to laugh, it's hilarious to me. So she did that a lot in this sketch, and I don't know why. I think just she was like thinking the whole topic and idea was ridiculous, or her voice that she was kind of doing. But I liked it a lot more in the second time I watched it, just because of Heidi. And Brenda did fine, but like, I don't know. I just didn't understand the sketch. And then I also wrote down Heidi's laugh almost breaking reminded me of Cara Bonnet for some reason.
Oh, I see that.
Which is a great honor because I love Cara Bonnet. But yeah, I don't know. I was very confused by this. Not my favorite sketch, but I love Heidi breaking. That's my review.
Okay. Well, how'd you feel about this sketch?
Yeah, so I think for this sketch, I didn't see Blonde. So one thing that's been kind of nice as a side note to the sketches, there's been a lot of material that you don't necessarily have to, the source material, you don't have to have seen it, but it's kind of well explained what the general takeaway or what the premise is going to be, based on how they presented in the show. But I think overall, I mean, it wasn't my favorite sketch of the night, but I just enjoyed when they're piling on. I think just the general, hey, we're just going to share the negative feedback and trying to make light of the fact that, she's, Marilyn Monroe was unfairly criticized, and like just that constant, criticism and like the way that they were able to present that. That's always fun, and like leading to the breaks where it's the same joke going back to that well in many different ways, but still being able to kind of have fun with it and find different ways to get to the same point, which is piling on criticism of that character, which is always fun when they're having fun with it. But I said I enjoyed this. It was my favorite sketch of the night, but still enjoyed the fun that they had with it from a delivery standpoint and just having fun with it. And not having seen Blonde, I still was able to enjoy like what they were trying to do and what they were getting at without seeing the actual the movie. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was the sketch I was talking about, where on Saturday I felt like this was my least favorite of the night, and it probably still was, just because I feel like everything was like so stacked in this episode. But on a second watch, and when I was like pulling sound clips for this, like all the like,
you are a whore,
like the way that Heidi says that, Brendan,
voice, yeah.
You are a whore.
Like the voices they were putting on when I was watching this. Look, concept wise, was there much here? Probably not, right? Because it didn't necessarily escalate. It sort of got to the point of the sketch like very early on. So like that's, I think, when we talk about sketch structure, like the sketch has already finished 1 minute into it. The only things that happen for the last 2 minutes are just how, much fun are they going to have with the voices or the things that are in the letters, or are they going to mislead the main character to make, Chloe Fineman as Marilyn Monroe think that it's not going to be a bad thing in the letter, but then it ends up being. So structurally, the sketch doesn't have much to it, but it sort of won me over on how much fun Heidi was having with the sketch, which is something that I think doesn't get enough credit. I often see in like our community and stuff, a lot of people are like asking for some different stuff from Heidi. I think that like Heidi can win me over just on, charisma alone. And I think it's sort of, reminds me of some of the characters that she's played in the past, where I think she just like if you see that method a little bit with Heidi, I think it could really get you. So I think this was stronger than I initially thought it was, to answer your question, Jeremy.
Yeah, and to your point real quick, John, like this is a 5-minute sketch.
Right.
Like it's a long thing. And so I'm writing a lot of sketches for TikTok and I'm like struggling to get something into 28 seconds. And like you said, the structure I'm looking for, like where's the punchline? When do we get there? What's the tag? And this thing was just all like exposition, like blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing over and over again. So the joke never changed. And then the final tag is I can't read. I was like, that's the tag they're going to put on the end of this? It just seemed really off-putting. And so I agree with you. I love Heidi breaking. I love Heidi in the sketch. I just wasn't the biggest fan. Not a fan, like from the sketch. Not a fan.
Not
Oh,
a
I should have
fan.
led with that. Yes, there you go.
Okay. Will, anything else on this one? Or are we good to move on to the next question?
No, I think we're going to move on. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Cool. Carlos, you have the questions up. Do you want to read the next one?
Yes, it is from Kylie Leonard. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so far we haven't seen a quiet week for any of the rookies. Should 4 of them? Oops, my notepad is not correcting.
No
Should we expect to see all 4 of them for the rest of the season, or will one become the next Aristotle or Lauren Holt? Too soon, by the way.
Yeah,
Way too soon to say Aristotle's name. But do you want to? Who wants to start?
why don't you take it? Yeah, what do you think?
I think they're going to try to put them in as many as they can right now in the next few episodes. I think at some point, just like how it works in SNL, if there isn't a place for you or you haven't written something or, it's just not jiving, then maybe you won't be there. But I think I like, by the way, we've never talked about it, but this season, I like how they, did kind of different intros. And I think they're maybe going to do a new kind of take this way where like, let's just put all the new people in the show as much as we can, even if they're like in just bit parts. So I think we're going to see every one of them for a few more episodes. That's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
I think that we'll continue to see them as well. One of the things I really enjoyed about this season so far is they have been breaking some of the traditional rules we just think of as fans. There's almost been that thing of you're new, you're going to be on the bench, and I think we'll talk about the cast advice one later, but there's that idea that, if you're lucky, you'll get on an update feature or we'll see you eventually, but you're going to be in the background. And I like that they've introduced and let us get a chance to know all of them collectively and individually in the early parts of the show. And, you can never tell, you always have the new people and you hope that they're all going to be stars and you're going to get, one of those, Bill Hader, Andy Samberg type classes that comes in every single time. But I like that they're getting a chance. So I feel like at least early on, if anyone's not going to be around long term, it won't be because they weren't given an opportunity to get out there, at least based on the first 2 episodes. So I think we'll see more of them. And I think the ensemble approach that they've used in the writing so far this season has been kind of a welcome change. And I'm excited for us to see the rookies mixed in with the veterans.
I think early on in your SNL careers, I think there's really 2 paths for success. One is you have to develop a niche, and maybe as fans, we don't always want to see somebody, boxed in, but I think very early on, that's extremely important. So in the case of last year, our 2 success stories, we had JAJ, who was clearly niched as presidential impressions, political impressions, celebrity impressions. That was his thing. Sarah clearly had the niche of, the body humor, body horror stuff that, sometimes successfully got on, sometimes did not. But at least, she found her niche that she brought to the show and the show accepted that. So I think that's one method for things. And, I don't know that we know what those are for these 4 people yet. But the other thing is, are you put in a sketch as a normal person? So in the case of what we got this week in the Sarah I sketch, we got to see Michael Longfellow put around the table, sitting there with everybody, not necessarily adding or taking away from the sketch, but he's put, it's a production choice or whoever wrote the sketch says, okay, we want Michael in this for whatever reason. And to me, that is a great sign of, okay, clearly this guy is leading the pack so far. Doesn't mean that Molly's not going to take over or Marcelo, who had a great week on Update, isn't going to take over, or even Devin. But I think right now it's very clear through 2 episodes that Longfellow is so far leading the pack. And I think we're going to see. Now, I think they're already more set up for success than, let's say, Lauren and Aristotle were, because, the new era stuff, a lot of changes, a lot of people leaving. I think they're all going to have more opportunities. So I wouldn't necessarily count anyone out yet, but I would say I think Michael's probably just ahead by an inch right now.
I actually wrote that down in my notes, Michael Longfellow. It seems like he has his voice, and I think when you have your voice, like you were saying, and you understand your niche, you get in more stuff. I mean, it's easier to write for you. And yeah, he was just playing like a regular person at a table, but he's there, and that's important to mention that because they're trying to get him in there. And I think he did a really good job on his update desk piece. So, and by the way, I love Molly, and she feels like a younger Melissa McCarthy to me. I mean that as a compliment. But yeah, I think Devin and Marcelo have to still find something, and we'll see.
Yeah, we will see, but I just want to underscore, things to look for in week number 3. I think that's a very important thing. If we do, we open up on a scene of somebody at a house and we see Molly sitting on the couch, perhaps contributing to the sketch or whatever their role is, that's the type of thing. It's like, okay, that's a vote of confidence for somebody like Molly to put them in the sketch, as opposed to necessarily being the focal point of the pre-tape, which is all good stuff. But I think, like I said, there's obviously something is clicking right now between Michael and the writers. And in this case, we had Michael in a sketch written by Sarah and Dan Bula and Please Don't Destroy. So you start to look for these things, which, cast members start connecting with which writers. It's very early, but I think once we get to the halfway point of the season, we can start making these connections at this point. Okay. Will, do you want to read our next question?
Yeah, sure. So from Ken George Jones. While I know the Try Guys sketch got the most attention, I felt like Brendan Gleeson's episode as a whole was worth watching. No real dud sketches, which is not always the case with an SNL episode. Do you think the way forward for SNL, if they can't do both, is to focus on a solid, watchable episode to help viewers adjust to a new era, or to put more focus on 1 or 2 pieces a week that will get a lot of publicity?
All right, Will, do you want to answer that question? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that I hope the focus is always to make a solid, watchable episode. I think you have to, with it being a variety show, you have to appeal to all the voices you have in the cast and the people that are watching. So I think the goal always should be to just make sure it's a solid, watchable episode. Every sketch is as tight as possible with a good premise and good conclusion. I think that if you chase, publicity or try to go in trying to go viral with certain things, I think that could be in some ways a recipe for disaster. You might not get the attention that you wanted. But I do like that they've been able to take on common pop culture topics or things that are, a part of, the conversation, and still just find their own take on it without saying, we're going to try to take it too far. We're going to try to do this thing to make it be viral. I think the focus has to be on how do we get a bunch of great solid sketches, show everyone's voice, and then just see what hits, week after week.
Carlos?
Yeah, I kind of sound like a broken record on the show because I always say whatever's funny, and that's kind of the answer. So a lot of these questions sound like, should they try this or should they do this? Try Guys, being in the spotlight. So let's get the attention while we can get it. That's not how it generally works. I mean, if the people are writing and they happen to watch YouTube and they see a thing, then yeah, if it sparks an idea. But I don't think you can't really limit it to those kind of choices. It's more like what's happening in our brains right now, with our like sleep deprived brains, and what's funny. That's my short answer.
I think the question, if I understand correctly, Ken, is a little bit from the perspective of somebody like Lauren or Higgins, like from a producer's role about, producing the episode. How do you end up, what is the overall goal and strategy towards the episode? Are you looking to pick the 1 or 2 sketches that produce something that's more publicity driven, or are you looking to put together the right ingredients? So, almost, picture Saturday Night Live, like all the writers are going to the grocery store. They're all going to shop for the ingredients that they want to bring to the table. And then Lauren picks out the ones that are at the table that he wants. And then they try and build the cake, I guess, is, for this analogy, try and put it all together with the right stuff. It doesn't always work, right? They try and mash a bunch of things together. The episode doesn't always come out clear. I think in the Gleeson case, at least personally, a lot of stuff really clicked together. But I think if SNL had a choice and could be extremely deliberate about it, I think they would try and produce the best overall episode as a whole. I think they want those high publicity moments, which I think we're going to address in the next couple of questions. But I think the first priority is the best episode possible, because in the long run, I think they're going to look back and, think more positively about the process and about the episode. It's going to make everybody else feel good about the show. Everyone who's working there, as opposed to like the 3 days of like absolute insanity that the Try Guy stuff brought to the show. Will, you want to jump in on that?
I was gonna say, one of the things I think from the publicity standpoint, I think that's where, in the best world, that's where the host and the musical guests come in. I mean, that's where you kind of get what eyes or what thing is going on. We've seen it go well with people that are, really great, talented people. And you see in the grabs where it's like, let's bring in, Paris Hilton, and let's bring in, you talked about earlier this week, like a Dane Cook, like someone who's hot in the moment to try to get publicity for the show. And I think that can work sometimes, mixed results. But I think as it relates to the format of the show, like you said, you have to have just solid episodes and, just hope and just see what goes viral based on the performances and the writing when they get combined.
Yeah, I just want to say I like the idea of, like you say, Will, like the actual musical guest and the host creating that buzz, or like picking from what's going on in the world right now and making them part of that. But like just sketch-based things, because something's happening right now. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and to your point, John, like I think there's another question, which is another tangent for another podcast probably, about like what Higgins and Lauren picks. Because I feel like that's a whole other world. Because you have all of the writers like working really hard at some things, and Sarah's Eyes, which is like, Crazy Town. And then you have the bigger sketches like the Try Guys of the world. And so, yeah, to your point, like, I don't know what that process is like, where they go, well, let's pick the one that's got the bigger reach, like, is that part of it? Probably.
I think it's part of it for sure. I also think like, the head writers have a little bit of an influence there where they're like, I really think like this is the one that we should move forward with. How well does it do at the table is also a factor, right? So there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to producing an episode. And also, there's a lot of sketches that I think are, chosen, produced really well. And then, production designers come in and they say, hey, this isn't realistic for us to do, or it's difficult to produce, like that type of thing. So there's a lot of factors that go into what ends up coming out and what we see on Saturday, though we will always take away what was canon and what we saw in the episode. All right. Let me take this next question from our friend Monette, who says the Try Guys sketch gained a lot of controversy from the fandom, yet at the same time, it currently has almost 9,000 retweets and 2 million YouTube views. My question is, should SNL continue to make content that will get other internet and celebrity fan bases to react negatively because it gets in a high viewership, regardless of the quality of the sketch? So it's a very interesting question, and I know it related a lot to, I think, our friend Eric, who's also a patron. He was producing some statistics on YouTube videos and SNL YouTube like comments interactions. I know ourselves, we produced a highlight video from the Hot Take Show about the Try Guys, got 20,000 views to it. The comments were crazy. So like this was a hot button topic this week. Do I think like if SNL could go back and like do some things differently about the sketch, they may have? Probably, because I don't think it was like a perfect sketch. I think it was probably my favorite of the night for certain aspects of it, because I really loved what they did with that Brendan character. But I think, would they take the publicity? Like, I think so. Like, I think that even if it's positive or negative, like the fact that 48 years into the show, like people are still talking about Saturday Night Live, I think that's like a big deal. Look, I mean, like for all the stuff, like as a community that we didn't really love about like them going in on all the Republican candidates and like the way that like all these, not that we didn't like the Republican candidate stuff, but I'm saying about like the production choices to bring in like outside celebrities over the last few years during the 2016 election cycle, for all the stuff we didn't like about that, like they were clearly generating headlines, and clearly SNL knows like there's some strategy involved with some of the stuff. I don't think it's going to change. Like, I think that's the way SNL is. I think they enjoy doing that type of thing. I'd love to get your opinions though. Carlos, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it, I don't want to say my same answer. If it's funny, it's funny. Right, Carlos, we get it. But my own peanut gallery. Yeah, I think more crossover would be good though, because I mean, younger generation, I'm on TikTok all the time. People are on TikTok, people are on YouTube, people are watching YouTube shorts a lot more now. And so I think that things like when they did the TikTok sketch, I think is going to come up in another question, but I kind of liked it, because I was like, yeah, I'm watching all those videos. I know the references, and talk about getting another demographic or more eyeballs. People are watching tons of content that isn't in traditional media or in, I don't know, just in a smaller form factor. So you have the YouTube stars, the TikTok stars. I think more crossover of that stuff is good. I think that's my short answer.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that you have to, as far as it goes with the sketch that they choose, I want the show to and the writers to feel confident to talk about the things that are going on, regardless of if a fan base is really passionate about it. You can't ignore it. That's how the show's built, is talking about pop culture. I don't think that you should do it as an intentional troll, because you might not focus on the funny if you're just focused on trolling fan bases. But I think being able to talk about the things that are important, that are on people's minds, and if you land the plane, great. And if you don't, I think it's a learning experience for the writers. It helps them be better. And then you move on to the next topic. Because I mean, I don't think, a month from now, I don't anticipate the Try Guys being the top of mind for everyone, right? So you talk about it while it's relevant. You hope you have a funny sketch, then you land the plane, and then you move on to the next week. And that's kind of the nature of the show.
I will also say that, after going through this entire week with this saga, I've spoken to a lot of people about the situation, and I will say that I think I was slightly ignorant to the situation itself in certain aspects of things, and maybe the way that I addressed it on the podcast with regards to the actual Try Guy situation, that I can see and understand why people were upset and bothered by the situation. And I think I probably made light of it a little bit throughout the week. So I'll admit when I'm wrong and take that back a little bit. But I do stand by that. I do think that there was some good intentions with the parody that they produced here, where they really were going after, using Brendan's character as a portrait of what they felt was this like storm brewing of these people caring about the situation. And they wanted to use that, like his thing, as like emphasizing about how ridiculous it is that somebody like him would care so much about that. And I think that maybe had SNL like double down and triple down beyond just the words that Brendan was using, like perhaps like going to other types of people that care that much about the situation, perhaps the flames wouldn't have been stoked so much. Because I think what people were really affected by was the like Bowen, Mikey, Andrew of it all.
John, I need to add to that. That is such well said, because I was with you too about like being like, yeah, I just liked the sketch and I wasn't going to like, any ill will to the Try Guys. I like learned about them kind of, recently, but more, I think that the funny bit of that sketch is, the reporter being like, this is important. And the regular world, or like everybody else being like, why is it important? And for the fans of the Try Guys and their whole ecosystem and, people following it and stuff like that, it is important to them. So I'm not saying it isn't, but at the same time, that was really the joke. It's just like, hey, this is the important thing. Wait, why is this the important thing? And they didn't really double down on it. They just kept going back to him, kind of just saying the words, I think. So I think they could have escalated that, and it might have like left the realm of Try Guys and become more about the actual joke, which I think was just like, why is that the thing? Like that's all the joke is, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So even with
some comments on it?
Yes, so even within the sketch, I mean, the some of the things that they were juxtaposing with that news, with really serious topics, and the, when world news in the world of the sketch, with the passion for that versus like that juxtaposed against the Try Guys versus the world events, I thought that was kind of like I said where the joke was. It was, in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of things that are happening that are incredibly important, and someone to be that passionate, regardless of not knowing the details, like that was where the joke was. And like I said, so you have to drill that home a little bit harder if that's the angle you want to go for something like that.
Yeah. Now, saying all that, like they did the sketch. It's an SNL sketch. Like, was it that serious that the SNL decided to cover it? Like, probably not. So, like, everybody needs to chill. And I will also say that, again, not making light of the whole situation, but seriously, like, if I've seen some crazy things this week of people who are like utterly obsessed with the situation and wanting to like go after the writers of this sketch, who I am not going to name because like I don't need to give any more attention to people who want to like go after them unnecessarily. But the writers who wrote this sketch, like they didn't have that bad intentions either. Like they're not trying to harm anybody. Right. So like I see people on TikTok like talking about going to their homes and stuff like that. Like, come on, guys! Like this is insane. Like if you're doing that, like get a life.
Yeah. Stop it.
Seriously.
Okay. All right, one more question, somewhat tangentially related, but Curly Joe, our friend, wanted to know, each episode has had at least one controversy thus far this season. Should they make an effort to go towards controversy and gain publicity, or should they avoid any controversy whatsoever? So I think we answered like parts of this question, but I just would love to know, like, if you think so. There's a controversial topic out there. Let's get like a quick yes or no. Like, do we think that SNL at this point should continue to go after stuff like that? Will, what do you think?
I think that you can't avoid what people are talking about, but once again, you have to find whatever angle you go at. You have to make sure you really find the funny in each situation. But I just think the show wouldn't be around if they were afraid to not touch certain topics. I mean, there's weekend update jokes that have been spicier than some of the sketches that we talk about. So you got to be able to talk about it.
Agreed. Carlos?
Yeah, and it reminds me of like, the older SNL where they're like saying crazy stuff that they can't say anymore, but they were trying it. They were trying everything, and throwing things against the wall is like what comedy's about. So, that's a whole comedy tangent. But yeah, I think they should go for what's funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, looking forward to seeing what comes up in week number 3. Hopefully something not that crazy. Okay, let's move on and take this question from our friend Ike. Ike says, I wasn't the biggest fan of the episode at first, but after some thought, I'm cool with it. Seems like a pattern here. Brendan seems like a nice man. That being said, do you think the show was originally going to try and get Colin Farrell to host, but his schedule would only allow him to cameo, so they've got Brendan instead? So I think the answer is like, we don't know for sure. It's a possibility, but let's imagine the world where it was Colin Farrell hosting. From what you saw, during this week, Will, do you think that Colin should host again, or perhaps host at all at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's definitely a recognizable star. I mean, and obviously he's had experience before. I think that it probably would have, from a key rating standpoint, raised a little bit higher. Probably would have had a little more attention and from a viewership standpoint. But yeah, like I said, it's impossible to know if that's what they wanted. But I think as a celebrity goes, he's very famous. He's hosted before. I mean, why not bring him back? And like I said, if you're promoting something, I think that's kind of the vehicle too. When someone has something, which they clearly were trying to promote with their new movie. So I'd be fine with Colin to come back. Not the highest on my list of draft picks, right? But still a solid actor.
Yeah, Carlos, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they ended up doing what they wanted, which is promoting their movie. They're both in it, and there you go. And they even did like literally a part like that they were fighting with each other, which is part of the movie. So, yeah, I think Colin would do well. He's been on before, right?
Yeah, so he hosted in 2004, season 30. And if you haven't seen this episode with Colin Farrell, nothing against Colin, but this was not a great episode of Saturday Night Live. Part of not a great season of Saturday Night Live. It was really like dealing with a lot of stuff that was happening, post 9/11. We were sort of in this like weird spot where it was like the post Will Ferrell era of the show, but like the pre, Kristen and Andy and Jason and Bill era of the show, where like, I think did Jimmy just leave the show? Like that type of thing. I think the show like really lost its identity throughout that. And there was just like a lot of like weird stuff happening. And I thought it would be like really fun to like go back and like post a clip at some point this week of Colin Farrell's monologue, but it does not hold up. So if you were able to find it online, it's not worth it. So we didn't.
Yeah, and to that point, that that like the show we've been saying before, like it changes season to season, but it changes like organically. Like it's this big, huge living beast almost out of Sarah Sherman's mind, and it's got people inside it, and and it changes every time. And so even though he might have like worked as a host, it was just the wrong time, right, wrong place or whatever. So I'd like to see him back, is all I'm saying. I think he might do good.
For sure. Okay. Carlos, you want to read this next question from Lewis?
From Lewis says, what do you think the rest of the season for Punky looks like?
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been worried about her for a while. I think maybe a few of us have been on the show. She's a stand-up, and I think I was also, initially worried about the new cast members because all of them are stand-ups. I think maybe a couple of them done some sketch, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't know where her place is yet. But that said, I love when every time she comes into a room, for a new sketch, and she's just like beaming with joy or something, or anger or whatever it is. She's got great energy. So I love that about her. I just don't know where she fits yet. And is this her second season?
This is our third season on the show.
Third season, yeah. So I'm just kind of afraid is my word, afraid. But I like when she comes into the room. I think she's got great energy.
Will, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to say because as the seasons go on, you think about where we might have thought of. She's probably on her tenure, but like Sarah at the beginning of last season, right? Like you don't know how things will build and how relationships develop in the writers' room, things like that. With Punky, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like for her. I don't know if she's kind of gotten maybe not passed up by the new crew that's coming in, but I think I'm really excited. I'm interested to see if she's able to find chemistry with other cast members and some of these new people or some of the veterans to kind of find her own voice in the show. And I think that there's still a lot of opportunity. I enjoy seeing her and seeing her appearances, but I still don't know where she fits in terms of the role she's playing on the show. I guess to Carlos's point, like when she shows up, she's solid, but is something centered around her? Like, what does that look like? What is outside of update? Things like that.
Yeah, and I think like last year at the end of the season, we did get to see some of that stuff, especially during the Selena Gomez episode. I believe she had a couple good things going on there. I think we saw some stuff with Benedict Cumberbatch. No, maybe it was Jake Gyllenhaal. Like one of those near the end of the season, she had some stuff. There was also this cut pre-tape I brought up on screen right now, which was from this week. I saw on Instagram that was posted by Damage Studios, who does work on the film unit. Basically posted that this was from the Biden horror trailer that was originally it was cut for time, not cut at dress. So this was going to air in the show, and then I believe Weekend Update went long, so this would have aired post Weekend Update. But I think this had a lot of the cast in it, but Punky was a big part of that. So I think that certainly would have helped. I am hoping that this is her week because I am such a big fan of Punky Johnson. I got to meet her this summer and hang out with her, and she is just the coolest, like nicest person. Like you could not like I'm telling to all of our friends, all of our fans, all of our community, like Punky Johnson could not be a nicer person. And like I really encourage us to all root for her because like I think she could have a lot of success on the show. I think she just needs to be given some opportunities. And that's the type of person that really needs to find like a character that's going to click on the show that like maybe we could see more than once. So look, there's still time. We still got 19 episodes left in the season. I think there's time for Punky.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I agree. And I think what John said in the chat, was one of my, perplexing moments in my head right now about SNL where they bring in a bunch of stand-ups because, man, it's a sketch show. I'm going to be a dick about it and say it's real good to have sketch, background and how to play with others and how to make your own characters. And you probably come in with like 7 characters, like all the greats that we think of. They did auditions with a ton of characters. So that's my only concern. But yes, all the love and support for Punky.
All right. Will, you want to take this next question from Tran?
Yeah, from Tran. So who do you think is going to have the best second season on SNL? JAJ or Sarah?
Okay. What do you think?
That's a tough one. I'm trying to think of the distance of the show. I think JJ is going to get a lot more screen time. I mean, he's gotten some already this season, but as the midterms are approaching, I think, we're going to see some more political sketches, I think, as we get around that time in November. But I feel like JJ's gonna have a really solid season, but I do feel like Sarah's gonna have the highest highs of the season. I mean, based on just the energy she brings to sketches, I can see it. Think similar story to last year where JJ had for a rookie, that's one of the best rookie seasons I've seen in a long time. Just starting the season and being all the way through and being a reliable impressionist for big parts of the show. But I think that Sarah's energy that she brings, and she has such a huge following, and when she's on the screen, I mean, she's able to carry sketches, and I just see the energy that she brings providing some of the highest highs of the season. So if I had to pick, I think I'll go with Sarah just because I feel like the ceiling on her is just a lot higher.
Carlos.
Come on. You know my answer.
About
to say it out loud. It's Sarah, of course. I'm a big Sarah fan, but yeah, she's got such a vision. She does her stand-up show, not stand-up because it's you can't consider it that. It's a weird thing with body horror that I won't explain because we'll get censored. And she's awesome. She's got this crazy vision, and I love JJ, and he's grown on me over the episodes and stuff. And but I think he'll do great. He'll get, like you said, Will, a ton of screen time. Trump will be back, unfortunately or fortunately. And then Sarah's sketch, like Eyeballs 2, will show up, and you'll be like, well, we're talking about that, So and Sarah, make eyeballs too, or eyes too. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's Sarah. Hands down for me.
So I think that we're going to potentially reach a crossroads for JJ, which will be like, is he going to be more Daryl Hammond or more Dana Carvey? And I don't know what the answer is yet. I don't know if he knows what the answer is yet or SNL does. But I think, if he goes in the more Daryl Hammond route, I think that to me is, the pure impressionist that when he's not doing impressions is in sketches doing a voice, and that's his thing in there, right? Like 50s baseball broadcast from the Natasha Lyonne episode. This week with the Blonde episode, I mean, he's sort of playing that same, voice of like an old timey voice that he does. And that's sort of what Daryl did when he was, just the regular in sketches. Maybe not right at the beginning of season 21, but like as he sort of started to develop, he was there for impressions in sketches. And then he was there for that. Dana, on the other hand, was obviously fantastic in impressions, but then could build characters and develop worlds and stories, and really, like, Dana could be anybody. He was as a chameleon, and I know that JJ probably looks up to both of those two as inspiration. So the question for me is like, which will he become more? And I think if he does go in the Dana Carvey route, perhaps, then I think he could have more success than Sarah. But I think if it's more of a Daryl thing, then I think he's found his niche on the show, and we just have to accept that that's who JJ is on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
I agree.
Let's take this next question from Sari Nissan. And Sari says, do you think Pete Davidson will make an appearance at some point this season? All right, already getting the Pete questions early on. So, Carlos, what do you think? We're going to see Pete at all in season 48?
He's so busy just chilling.
Taco Belly.
Yeah, he's just eating food and having pictures of the paparazzi taking pictures of him and stuff. I don't know. I don't see it really happening. Maybe for like 1 second, like in the monologue or something, he comes up and he does something that gets a laugh. I think that's it.
Will, what do you think?
Yeah, same. I mean, I think, obviously, I think when Pete was on the show, the appearances were, you didn't know if you're going to see him week to week. So him coming back would be very surprising. But I could definitely see him having fun, like in a meta way of coming back and, making a joke about it and being like, no, I'm still in the cast. I'm still been around and doing an update feature. Or, I think Michael Longfeld's kind of taking over that resident young person type vibe. So I could see him maybe doing something with him. But I think I don't expect to see Pete. I mean, it's always fun when previous cast members come back, but I'm not expecting it. I'll be excited to see him, but I don't think he's coming back this season.
Yeah, I mean, if he shows up like 4 months into the season, isn't that like typical? So
I know, right?
Exactly.
Is he still on the show? I think he might be still on the show.
Yeah, wouldn't be that different. But yeah, I think for obvious reasons, he's more likely to show up now than he would have when he left the show. So I think that, maybe we will see him. I think the highest likelihood of us seeing Pete Davidson during the season is if like one of his celebrity friends is either hosting or the musical guest. So like, i.e. look into like, people he's been in pre-tapes with or people he's brought on as cameos. If like one of them is a headliner, I think that's like the place to start looking for something like that.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, next question from our friend Naomi says, do you think we'll have another TikTok pre-tape? We've seen those for double duty hosts before. So I think we got that for the first time in the Billie Eilish episode last season. And that's when they basically, have the scrolling through TikTok and going through all the different characters. I don't think we've actually had a roll call sketch this season yet. So my perspective on this is always, if you're gonna do the roll call thing, do it once like every few episodes so it's special. Don't try and shove like 15 people in a sketch for every single episode or multiple times in an episode. So Carlos, what do you think? Do you think we're gonna get a TikTok pre-tape this week?
Oh, is it for this week?
I think
Or is
so,
it just
or
in
coming up
general?
soon. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, obviously Megan Thee Stallion's coming up, so I think related to it being in the Billie Eilish episode last year.
Yeah. I really like that Billie Eilish episode. Yeah, I think we have to. I really want there to be one. I don't know if it'll be this episode or not, but it makes sense. Again, like I said at the top of the show, you just got to embrace what's happening and talk
That
about
was Lizzo,
embracing
the other
culture.
one. Sorry, yeah, Lizzo and
that's
Billie
right.
Eilish.
That's
So
right.
that's
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I just think that I hope we see another one. And again, it doesn't need to have as many players. I think as that first time we saw it, like there was so many people in that and it goes by so fast. I think you can focus on like a couple real, trends, like the biscuit. You guys know the biscuit? Taste
Which
the
one?
loving of the biscuit. No?
You're much more TikTok-y than us.
Oh, okay. Now I'm doing it wrong. Everybody's going to be like, he knows it, but he's got it wrong. He said the wrong words. Taste the biscuit. I think it's taste the biscuit. Anyways, they could just do taste the biscuit And they don't have to do like that roll call thing. Is all I'm saying. That's what I'd like to see.
You heard it here first.
Taste the biscuit.
Will, would you like to see them do the TikTok thing coming up?
Yeah, I think I enjoy them. I think it's been a really clever way to do the roll call and then be able to have something that's topical. It still changes because as the TikTok trends change, like they can go back to that well and it can still be fresh with the same format. So I think it'd be fun to do it. And I think if that is the double duty, a double duty type of tradition that, we see rolled out and they make it third time's a charm, like I think that'd be really cool. And I enjoy whenever they come up. I think it's really fun.
I agree. Okay, let's take this next question, also from a friend Ike, that says, in honor of Megan Thee Stallion doing double duty, in your opinion, what makes a classic double duty host, and who is your favorite? Don't say Timberlake, John. Okay, Timberlake. So
Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, Carlos. So I know you did a lot of double duty research today. That's what you texted me.
I did. I was excited by this question, so thank you, Ike. And I went down the rabbit hole of looking up all the different double duty hosts ever. And it's a long rabbit hole, but YouTube hooks you up. You can watch a lot of the clips. And I have a bunch of answers, but Timberlake, sorry. There's an answer, I think, there. But I did like Ariana Grande a lot. She's in one of my favorite sketches, which is the Cut for Time sketch with what's his butt? Smile, that Smile song. New Studio.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I don't remember now, but
yeah, it's awesome. Anyways, and she's just really good. Like she's just so on her feet, quick on her feet and stuff like that. I really like Drake, especially because I always think of that sketch with him and 80 Bryant. Oh my goodness, it's so good. And then I was showing you this, John, earlier, but like Mick Jagger did very good, like in like these different weird roles. One of my favorite sketches was karaoke. So everybody go watch it on YouTube. But he like plays a nerdy guy. I think his name is Kevin. And everyone's like making like, Mick Jagger like karaoke stuff. Yeah. And they're ridiculous. And they're like, that's really good. And he's like, no, it's not. I don't think it's good at all. I just messed up a British accent. Sorry about that. Yeah, I really liked Mick Jagger. And then also Donald Glover. Because
of course.
Come on. Everything he did in that, I think I liked.
Will, any favorite double duty hosts and what makes a good one for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely I'll join the chorus, Timberlake. I mean, I think that's, we have to pretend. Yeah, we can pretend like he's not, but that's the way it is. But definitely Donald Glover and Childish Gambino, that was a great one. Bruno Mars, I thought did a great job. I did enjoy the Drake one as well. I thought that Lizzo did a great job too. I didn't know what to expect, but I thought that she was fantastic with Billie Eilish. So there's been a lot of really good ones. I think for me, like what makes a classic double duty host is I just want them to be great at both and really like down to play. I think when, you have the musical hosts that come in, sometimes you'll see them swoop in, they might, appear in a sketch or kind of be there. But when they really show up and they're like, I'm really here to perform and give my all for, this hour. And it's just you and me together. And I think those are always a lot of fun. So and those are my favorites. And I think it always helps when they are legitimately a star in music and then legitimately game to play and talented when it comes to the sketch comedy standpoint. So
yeah, and are funny, you know what I mean? Like just kind of generally funny. Like someone in chat said Miley was funny. I remember that a lot of the sketches she was in. And then a lot of people were saying Dolly. I never watched that episode or the whole episode.
Yeah, it's a very good one. It's definitely worth the watch. But I would say, in addition to JT, I think Bruno Mars has brought up one was like really a great one for me. I think also ones that don't get talked about enough. I really like the Britney Spears ones. I know she did too. There's one at least that I really, really enjoyed from the early 2000s as well. I mean, look, it's just a sign of like, when you're called for double duty, like you're one of the biggest stars in the entire world. So I don't know that I necessarily judge a double duty host differently though than I do a regular host. I think we have to hold them to the same standard. They're just putting more on their shoulders. So I think to answer the question directly, I don't know if, what makes a great host is different than what makes a great double duty host, that we have to separate them into different categories. I think pressure's on for Megan Thee Stallion this week to make it the Stallion this week to
Yeah, there you go. You got it right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to do her best. I got 4 podcasts next week about this, so I got to do.
You better get it right.
Yeah.
I think it's also important that, like, it's just an energy drain, right? It's an energy drain, adrenaline dump, just to do one sketch, like the first sketch or the monologue, and then they're going to also perform some sort of thing. So it's just tough. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of it happening because you have a lot of people in the world, tons of people who are like, that's their dream to be on SNL. So unless it's like really, really a reason, I don't know.
Yeah, our friend Ken in the chat brought up the Ludacris episode as well, and I remember watching that one live. There was some funny stuff. I do in particular remember the Blizzard Man sketch from that episode. So that
Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper did a great job too.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. I wouldn't mind seeing Chance again. So yeah, we'll see. Double duty. We'll see if we get another one coming up this season after Megan. Okay. Let's take our last question for the night. And this was a question that I believe Mike and Nicole also addressed last night on the By the Number show. And, Mike and Nicole were talking about how often this thing happens and what happens when it does. So who will introduce Megan Thee Stallion as musical guest this weekend? So, oftentimes it's either a guest or a cast member. I think they gave the stats on this last night. I don't remember offhand, but, if there's no guest in the building, do we think it's going to be one of the cast members, and who? So let me get your predictions. Carlos, who do you think is going to do it?
I don't know if this is a 10-1 bet or something, but I think it's going to be none of the cast, and it's just going to be a special guest, like a random person, like someone that we all know and is really in the public eye, and maybe in hip hop, and maybe Megan's friend. I don't know, but I just feel like it's someone else that's going to do it.
Okay. Will, what do you think? Any predictions for who's going to introduce Megan Thee Stallion for her musical performances?
Yeah, I was going to say probably a guest as well. And I think Meg's and she's pretty sentimental. It might be someone that's close to her. It might not be someone that's famous, just someone that knows her. But I think that'd be my guess would be a guest.
Okay. Give me Bo and Yang for the first performance, and give me the 4 newbies for the second performance.
What? That's a long shot. I thought mine was 10-1. The 4 all together? They'll be talking on top of each other? You're crazy.
If we're being like, introducing ladies and gentlemen and doing the whole thing. So
if we're doing long shots too, I might say I wouldn't rule out her introducing herself. Just kind of saying like, ladies and gentlemen, me. Meg Thee Stallion or whatever. And
shit, that would be awesome.
I think Lizzo did that last year.
I think Lizzo did that. I remember. I don't know if Bruno Mars did it, but I remember him starting his performance in his dressing room, and then working his way out to the stage, which was cool. So I wouldn't be surprised if she has fun with the introduction part of it.
Yeah, Timberlake did it also one time. But of course, God forbid we talk more about JT. So that does it for our questions from this week. Thank you for all the great questions for everyone who submitted. Appreciate that. And of course, we'd love to see your questions again next week when we come back here to talk about the Megan Thee Stallion episode, and look forward to the next episode of Saturday Night Live to be announced on Saturday. I'm sure we'll get that host and musical guest. Carlos, do you guys have any predictions about who's going to host and do musical guest for week number 4?
Oh, no, I don't. I wasn't prepared for that.
Okay, sorry. I just threw it out there. Just wanted to see.
Let me think. Will, you go.
I know it's kind of been circulating, and I kind of actually thought that she would be a part of the first run, but Quinta Brunson's been getting a lot of discussion with Abbott Elementary being back. Like, she's, has a previous with doing sketches and stuff like BuzzFeed. So I think she'd be a really fun choice, especially with like back to school time frame. I think that it would make some sense. It should be a great choice.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people seem to think that. Carlos, you got anybody, or I put you on the spot too much?
No, I'm done. I got no more energy. I'm done. No. You know what? There's just so many people, and that's a fake answer. I don't know.
Okay, no problem.
There's so many people, John, I could pick from, but no, I have no answer.
We will find out very shortly, I believe, on Saturday night. So, Carlos, anything else from this episode that we didn't talk about tonight that you would like to talk about?
Eyes is amazing. Eyes is so good. That final open the door or slam the door shut moment was so good. And PDD is still killing it, and they got a movie deal, which she probably already talked about, which is cool. And headshots made me very uncomfortable, but I loved it because Dismukes is in it, and he just made me laugh. So
he was fantastic.
He was fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I want to say one thing, and this is a con. All right. We've been very, very happy this whole episode. Kind of rare for me. A lot of pros. All right. Here's a con. Willow. What you doing with that guitar and that TV?
Oh, don't be
do
one of those
that.
people.
Oh, I'm going to be one of those people. I love smashing guitars. I've done it myself. I've been in bands. She placed the guitar in the TV.
Oh, you want her
Sorry.
to smash it more?
Yes. Are you kidding me?
Okay, thank you. You could be
Yeah,
that
no.
person, yeah.
I was at a bar once, smashed a guitar, and people like freaked out about it. And I was like, "What's wrong with you? Don't you have heard of rock and roll?" But I smashed the guitar, and it was my only guitar. She placed the guitar into the TV. Go harder next time. That's all.
Okay.
I
Well,
had to put that on record.
Good.
Sorry.
No, you're
got
good.
it. No problem. No problem.
No, I mean, it's talked about this week. I mean, I really enjoyed the new cast advice. I think whenever you get a chance to have that introduction for all the new people, it's always fun. It's probably one of the more fun ways they've introduced everyone at the same time outside of, teasing them in the season premiere or something like that. And it kind of reminded me a lot too. One of my favorite like intros to new people was when Hader and Sandberg were on Update, and they kind of did the impression off. And it was kind of like got a chance to see their personalities for the first time. And this is a really fun way to kind of have them play with each other and see how they fit. So I really enjoyed that. And then Marcelo, obviously, I think that was great. Like, it's been fun seeing the new people get that chance to shine and see their personalities and the things they bring. And you can kind of see how that stand-up background is going to be incorporated in the show as the veterans start to bring in more characters they might not have gotten to use with the previous cast leaving, and the new people bringing in their perspectives and their voices to Update. It's been fun to watch the season grow so far. So I did enjoy the episode overall. It's been fun so far this season.
For sure. Well, it was really great to talk to both of you about this episode. I'm so excited to wrap up the week with the two of you, and I'm looking forward to having you both on later on in the season to catch up and get your thoughts on the season and everything that's happening over at SNL 48. Carlos, I know I'd love to hear everything that you're doing. Plug away, and I believe you had, like you said, crazy Twitter adventure tonight.
Oh, I can mention that really quickly. Speaking of Megan Thee Stallion, I found the trailer, those teaser trailers with her and Heidi, and it's awesome. It's like 4 different takes, and they're all really funny. The promo, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's really good. Heidi's funny, she's funny, and just watching that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be great. And because Twitter doesn't have an edit button, I typed in like a reply to the SNL's, video, nope, because I meant because in the sketch, Heidi goes, no, we didn't even start writing the sketch yet. We didn't start writing any of it. And she goes, nope. So I just typed in nope, which I don't know if you guys know, but on TikTok, that's what people do. You just like say a word from the sketch you just watched.
Mhm.
But no, I got attacked, y'all. I should not have said those words. And so then I got on blast, and I don't know if that, no bad press is good press or something, but I'm still trending or something in a negative way.
No.
So I'm sorry to everybody on Twitter. I did the comment. It said I was talking about Heidi. I'm very excited about Megan. You, not the best timing, but I'd like it.
Well played, John. Well played.
Well played. So yeah, I guess I'm not a fan of myself. Yeah. So everybody who's watching this, if you for some reason saw the tweet, I meant Heidi. I'm very excited about Megan Thee Stallion. And you can follow me on TikTok at Carlos Rodela, Rodela. Carlos Rodela. It's just my name.
Okay. Well, great to talk to you, Carlos. Will,
I'm just going to go down silk away.
Okay. Will, where can everybody check out what you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to plug really, but I'm on Twitter at Will Norman with the Norman with a 0. But it's been really exciting to be here and talk with you, and just continue to plug the Saturday Night Network. I mean, we're really cool, great community, and great to be a part of it. So thanks for having me on again. Hope to see everybody later in the season.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat late on this Thursday night. It's a little bit later than our usual podcast, but great to get to hang out with all of you, I guess, except for the hot take show, which is obviously as late as possibly can be. But we will be back for that hot take show for this week to cover everything from the Megan Thee Stallion episode. And I'm looking forward to that. We will have our friend TJ will be on with us. I know I previously announced that he'll be on for last week, but he is finally going to make it onto the podcast for the first time during the season. So he'll be on with us for the hot take Take Show for this coming weekend, along with Anthony Conway returning for his second season of coverage with us on Saturday night for the Hot Take Show. And then we'll be back with 3 great guests on Monday for the Roundtable by the Numbers on Wednesday, and another patron feedback show next week. And then we'll have a superfan takeover coming for that one off week before we're back for 3 more episodes. So it's a crazy fall here at the Saturday Night Network. I just want to thank everybody once again for joining us tonight. Thank you to Carlos. Thank you to Will. My name is John from the Saturday Night Network, wrapping up the Brendan Gleeson week. Looking forward to the Megan Thee Stallion week. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time.